You're seeing Javier Farje. He's a journalist and historian specialising in Latin American affairs. He joins us from London. Good to see you, Javier. So President Trump claimed on Saturday that Delcy Rodríguez has already spoken with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and agreed to, quote, cooperate with the US role in the country. What's going on here? Is it fair to call it a deal, or is it more of a pragmatic surrender under immense military and economic pressure?
It's the latter rather than the former. Pragmatism, sheer pragmatism. Delcy Rodríguez, who as vice president was the minister for oil and gas, so gives her an extremely important role within the Chavista government because she controls the very thing, the very natural resource that constitutes 95% of Venezuela's income from hard currency. Now, when they bombed Caracas, and they arrested or kidnapped or whatever you want to call it, Maduro, they left the whole structure of the Chavista government intact, apart from a couple of buildings, and of course some people apparently died during the actual incursion. They left absolutely everything intact. And the day after Rubio and Trump said that they have been speaking to Delcy Rodríguez, the Supreme Court in Venezuela ordered her to take over as interim president. She took over as interim president, and she made a call, say, a conciliatory tone in her speech about the United States.
Okay.
This is pure pragmatism.
All right. So a pragmatic move on her part to in some way keep a degree of the old order intact while removing the so-called head of the snake. But nevertheless, I mean, how do you square that with her background? I mean, because that's very, very interesting. Her father was a well-known Marxist political leader. She trained as a lawyer in the UK and France and long represented the leftist Chavez revolution abroad. But nevertheless, at the same time, as you rightly say, I mean, she's served as oil minister. How do you square the two?
Because she's serving many posts in the Venezuelan government, which gives her a great deal of experience in relation to what she can actually give to the United States. Don't forget that 2 days before what happened in Caracas, President Maduro himself had actually said that he was prepared to make a deal with the United States in relation to drugs and oil. So what she's promised, so obviously she's going to continue that kind of policy. Now, in terms of pragmatism, who controls the army? The Chavistas. Who controls the police? The Chavistas. The militias control the Chavistas. They control everything in Venezuela. The whole structure of the Chavista government has been left intact, which means that Delcy Rodríguez presides a government where everything is intact. And in order to be pragmatic, she has to be conciliatory with Trump, and Trump has to be very positive. Not only that, I think it's important to realize that she's also the sister of the president of the National Assembly. So she has a lot of political power in Venezuela. And of course, this might be the reason why Trump decided not to go ahead with invading, because an invasion would have been extremely messy. Right. Extremely messy. And it's yes.
Okay, and she was also, I understand, head of the, I think it's fair to call it, feared intelligence service. I mean, taking all of these details in mind, I mean, what do you think her immediate objectives are, and how is she viewed, not just by Trump, but by the Venezuelan people?
Well, but that's very interesting. There were rumors after, Trump said that they were going to talk, they were talking to her, that there were some internal fights within Venezuela, the Venezuelan power structure, army, police, etc. That turned out to be totally the wrong thing. She swore before the National Assembly, which is controlled by the Chavistas. Her father, as I said to you, her brother is the president of the assembly, and both the army and the police need her because she has these levers in relation to her relationship with Trump. Because what is the other alternative for Trump? Invade and enter a war, and it would have been an absolute and utter mess. So both have been very pragmatic. Delcy Rodríguez knows that she can't mess with Trump. Trump can actually invade any time, but Trump doesn't want to do that because it would be very messy. So both pragmatics, the pragmatic side of both, have come together, and that's what they are talking about.
Javier, I want to get another question before we come to the end of this interview, because in that staggering turn of events, opposition leader in exile, María Corina Machado, who spent over a year in hiding, won the Nobel Peace Prize last year, someone has been perhaps the most credible face of the resistance in Venezuela, has now been dismissed by Donald Trump, claiming she doesn't have the support within the country. I mean, how true is that? And what do you think her next move will be? I see that she's called for all political prisoners to be released, but what about her personally?
Yes. Well, she's been totally disputed. There is the American media is quoting a CIA report which says that if they installed Machado, it would have been chaos in the country because the Chavistas wouldn't have accepted that. And apparently, Marco Rubio, according to these media sources, especially the New York Times, spoke and convinced Trump that it was better to deal with Rodriguez than it was with Machado. But also, Machado doesn't control anything in Venezuela. Delcy Rodríguez does. She doesn't control the army, the police, the state, the oil. She doesn't control absolutely nothing. It's happened before with Juan Guaido when they installed this man, opposition man, as interim president, and nothing happened there and they decided to dismiss him again. They should have learned that lesson. She doesn't have any control in Venezuela.
So are you suggesting Trump has a point? Are you suggesting Trump has a point then?
Well, it looks like the pragmatism has prevailed over pride, because otherwise, how do you understand? What happens is that the CIA, this report in the CIA says, look, if you install the opposition, it's going to be chaos because there's going to be a reaction from the Chavistas. You're going to have to put boots on the ground and then stop that. And obviously, that's something that Trump does not want to do.
All right, Javier Farje, pleasure having you on Al Jazeera. Many thanks.
Pleasure.